Welcome back to the GavGoesIn podcast. Guys, apologies for that. There's something wrong with the connection, but it seems to be okay now. So, Chelsea, first team to win, all of the European trophies. So, the Conference League, Europa League, Champions League, and obviously the European Super Cup as well. And, guys, you know what? I have to say, it makes me frustrated to be a Man United fan because I look at what Chelsea are doing. They've obviously got themselves into the Champions League. They've just won the Europa Conference League to complete the set. And I look at the money that they're potentially going to spend in the summer. I look at the players they've got already, and I think next season they're going to be a force again. And big up to Reluctant Killer. Guys, there's a lot of things to get into, but as I said, Chelsea completing the set, and yeah, man, it's just frustrating now as a Man United fan because I look at Chelsea as another team that United are going to have to somehow get ahead of, which for me ain't going to happen anytime soon. And we look at, as I say, what they've got coming in. You've got William Esteval, one of the best young players in the world, and they're for sure gonna sign a striker. I think there was some news as well, them saying that Chelsea will be looking to get a striker as soon as this Conference League is over. They'll be getting a bit of money from this competition as well. And yeah, it's just frustrating, man, as a United fan. And Chelsea, man, they're gonna go from strength to strength. Big up to Sham as well. But guys, a few things to get into from this game, and again, if you're just coming through, make sure you smash that like button and make sure if you haven't done so already, you subscribe to my channel at GavGoesIn. Big up Daniela as well for coming on. Guys, the changing point for this game, and big up Barbara Joseph as well. The changing point for this game, guys, was for me, and I'm going to start off with Reece James first and foremost. Reece James coming on for Malo Gusto, because in that first half, Eze Abde was giving Gusto problems. And Eze Zauli, as Sham has said, he was giving him problems. And to be fair, I think we have to question Malo Gusto's career going forward with Chelsea, because Enzo Maresca is hell-bent on making Malo Gusto invert. But the Reece James substitution, was one of the key points in changing the game. And as I said, I think Malo Gusto now, what is his career going forward at Chelsea? Because to be taken off at half-time and invariably the team going to win the game comfortably in the end, I think it doesn't look good for his future. But guys, the major change, guys, and this might go over people's head, because this is what I think Maresca made a mistake. And although he did change things, I think the fact that he started Madueke on the left wing, I'll tell you why it was a problem. Because he was up against Sabali, and Sabali could match him for pace and for strength, And if you look at Madueke on that left-hand side, all he wants to do really is just run the fullback. But he couldn't do that to Sabali because Sabali, as I said, is an athlete. He gets up and down the pitch. He's physically strong as well and could match him for pace. There was no surprising that when Jadon Sancho came on, Sancho isn't going to want to run Sabali at right back because Sabali, obviously, in terms of the physicality, has a lot more than what Sancho has to offer. So Sancho obviously is someone that wants to link the play, link with the front man, and give a different kind of avenue getting past the fullback. So that was the major change for me because Pedro Neto came off the pitch, and Madueke went to the right hand side. But the introduction of Jadon Sancho was crucial for overturning that game, And again, I'm going to get onto Cole Palmer, in a minute. But the Jadon Sancho substitution is what won the game. Because in that first half, as I said, Chelsea were very predictable, because they played with Madueke and Pedro Neto on the flanks. And both players just want to get at their fullbacks or try and put a cross in, you know. And against, again, Sabali at right back, you needed someone that's a bit clever with the ball. And the fact that Sancho came on and got the goal in the end as well. And if you just look at what Sancho does, you know, his ball manipulation is one of the best, I would say, in Europe. The way he has the ball so close to his feet, and if anyone knows what Sancho's trying to do, he's trying to tempt the defender to make a tackle so he can skip past them or play the 1-2. And the thing is, the fact that he come onto the pitch, you know, and was instrumental in that tie being turned over, you know, is one of the main reasons. And guys, I'm a bit conflicted here because although, you know, I like seeing Sancho doing well, I'm just hoping now this isn't the springboard for Chelsea to now sign him for 25 million rather than hand him back to United for 5 million, because I want him back at United, you know, and I think if he comes back to Man United, obviously with the system they're playing at the moment, I think he makes that left 10 position strong with obviously Cunha coming in as well. But I'm just thinking now, does that goal now look, does that now say to Chelsea, you know, let's get the signing over the line? And I'm just hoping, fingers crossed, that was Sancho's parting gift to Chelsea, and then they activate the 5 million release clause and send him back because, as I said, he's got a lot to offer the game, man. But what a crucial signing, what a crucial substitution that was, because as I said, that changed the game, definitely. Cole Palmer, you know, I mean, what hasn't been said about Cole Palmer already? You know, Cole Palmer is just an absolute class player, you know. The second goal, you know, was very good. The way he rolled the defender, you know, you could say that was a bit of naivety from the defender. So I think he was a young guy that come on. And the way Palmer rolled him and then picked out Nicholas Jackson was class, to be honest, you know. And the first goal for Enzo Fernandez, you know, the ball in, you know, Cole Palmer's got that all day long, you know. The guy's got such quality, you know, and again, one of the best players in the league. And again, was instrumental for Chelsea overturning that tie. You know, Nicholas Jackson getting his goal, you know, should have laid Sancho when they went through 2 against 1. Obviously a heavy touch, you know, and that is Nicholas Jackson all over, really. You know, he's one of them guys that does a lot for the team, but in the crucial moments, you know, he does have a bit of a, you know, a blank eye there sometimes when it comes to things like that, you know. But again, he got his goal. Sancho getting his goal as well. And guys, listen, if anyone watched my stream from I think it might have been a couple of weeks ago, Moises Caicedo, you know, and how funny is it that obviously Chelsea's player of the season, the players player of the season as well, gets the final goal. And guys, as I said, this was a guy that wasn't even included in player of the season, you know. And again, another dominant display from Moises Caicedo. And for me, if we're talking about, you know, the top 3 best centre midfielders in world football, he's in there. I would say Vitinha, Pedri, and Moises Caicedo right now are the 3 best central midfielders in the game right now. No question about it, you know. I think Gravenberch, McAllister, you know, they might have something to say about that. But Vitinha, for me, Pedri, obviously Rodri's been out injured, you know. But yeah, Vitinha, Pedri, and Moises Caicedo for me. I don't think you get a better 3 at the moment in world football in terms of central midfielders, you know. And he thoroughly deserved that that goal at the end, you know, to mark off a great season, to be honest with you. And again, Chelsea are going to go from strength to strength, you know. Some of the players they've got coming in, you know, you got Willian Esteval coming in the summer, you know, Dario Asugo and Giovanni Quenda in 2026. Or Asugo might be actually coming in 2025 and then Quenda in 2026. You know, they're gonna be a force, Chelsea, man. And they're gonna have money to spend, man. And again, I'm just worried about what they do in the summer because I'm fingers crossed they don't sign Sancho and they send him back and he comes back to United. But if they don't sign Sancho, I'm telling you now, they're gonna make, in my opinion, 2 big signings in attack. You know, I can see them getting a striker and getting someone to play on that left-hand side, you know. And yeah, they're going to be a force, man. Andre Santos coming in as well, back from loan. You know, Romeo Lavia, hopefully if he stays injury free, they're going to be a force, man. And I'm going to say it now. If Chelsea do what's required in the summer transfer window, I'm going to say Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool. That's the top three there, I would say, going for the title. And I'll be very surprised if any other team topple that, you know. But yeah, so well done to Chelsea, man, completing the set. And as I said, I think, yeah, they're gonna be a threat, man, next season for sure. But going on to Real Betis, obviously going 1-0 up. And you know what? When I see Real Betis' lineup, I thought to myself, do you know what? It's mad because like the amount of players of experience they have in their team that have been at other clubs, I actually didn't realize how good their team was. You know, if we look at Adrian, obviously formerly of West Ham and Liverpool, obviously second keeper to Alisson, you know, he was in goal. The back four, you know, you've got Ricardo Rodriguez, Switzerland international. You know, obviously formerly of Wolfsburg, formerly of AC Milan as well. He was at left back. Right back, again, mentioned him already, Sabali, you know, international for, I believe it might be Senegal. Yeah, I think he's Senegalese international. Centre backs, you know, the Brazilian Nathan, left footed, and obviously former Barcelona centre back Marc Bartra. And then in midfield, you know, you got Johnny Cardozo, you know, he's a very good midfielder. Pablo Fornals, formerly of Villarreal and West Ham. And again, he offers the legs in midfield. And Isco, man. We'll get on to him in a minute, you know. Isco in the 10. And then you look at the wide players, you've got obviously Anthony, who's had a great season at Real Betis since joining in January. You know, he's got 14 GA since he's gone there and has been instrumental in their rise to the conference final as well as the league. And then on the left, you know, Eze Abde, if anyone doesn't know, Eze Abde, formerly of Barcelona as well, you know, as Azuli, but it's Eze Abde. So he used to be at Barcelona. And then you've got Cedric Bakambu, formerly of Villarreal, and has caused problems in La Liga when he was at Villarreal as well. So you look at their team, yeah, and their team had players in there, you know, with Champions League experience, you know, experience at other clubs as well. And I looked at that lineup and I said, you know, they're going to give Chelsea problems. But you know what? Chelsea in that second half dominated it. And it just shows you how strong a squad Chelsea have because, you know, they're bringing off the bench players that are starting for them, the likes of Levi Colwill, Sancho coming off the bench, you know. Dewsbury Hall, you know, created the goal for Sancho, although Sancho did do it a bit more on his own. You know, so you look at what they've got in their squad, and they just overpowered Real Betis in the end. You know, and I think the only way Real Betis for me would have won that tie is if they went 2-0 up and then just more or less sat back and defended. But I think the longer the game went on, you know, Chelsea's power, you know, from Caicedo and Enzo in the midfield, you know, obviously Nicholas Jackson's a tireless worker, and the quality again from the likes of Sancho and Palmer. And as I said, Sancho changed that game because Sabali wasn't giving Madueke anything, you know. And again, if you're a coach, you should see that because Sabali's an athlete and Madueke, all he's going to try and do is run him, which ain't going to work. So you needed a clever player like what Sancho did to come on, you know, and play the 1-2s with the striker and create. And that's what he did. And then he well deserved his goal when he got the ball as well. And again, I'm just hoping that, you know, they just say, you know, thanks for the goal, but we're gonna send him back. Who knows? But guys, I want to talk about Isco, you know, because, you know, I feel guilty with myself really because this is a guy that, you know, this is a guy formerly of Malaga, formerly of Real Madrid. And obviously the news before the game, obviously, he just got recalled back to the Spain squad. And he was someone that, you know, I actually forgot about. But for me, this guy Isco is one of the best players of his generation easily. You know, and I think because that Spain squad, when they had the likes of Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, you know, obviously Rodri in there, you know, David Silva, Fabregas, you know, there's probably others I've missed out as well. Because they've had so many quality players, you actually forget what a good player Isco is, you know, and he ran the show in the first half, you know, and as a footballer, you know, the guy is, you know, he's one of the best players of his generation, easily. And the assist for Eze Abde's goal, again, Eze Abde, great touch, and obviously great finish with his left foot. But if anyone's watched Isco's career for long enough, you would know that Isco just does that all the time, the reverse pass, you know. The guy's vision is second to none. And, you know, it's a shame that, you know, the likes of Isco didn't really get too much recognition that he should have got when he was in his prime, because he was amongst very, very good players. You know, look at that Real Madrid lineup, you know, with Bale, Ronaldo, Benzema, you know, Casemiro, Cruz, and Modric. Isco was part of that, you know, and there was times where Isco was starting as well. But obviously they like that three in midfield of Casemiro, Cruz, and Modric. And then obviously Isco was rarely going to get a game because of the front three that I've just mentioned. But Isco was getting game time, and it just shows how much of a good player Isco is, you know, because that first half, he ran the game. You know, he ran the game, his touch, his composure on the ball. And for someone that isn't, you know, overly strong as well, the way he just protects the ball, you know, the way he's able to just, you know, use the ball manipulation that he has as well, and to get out of tight spaces and pick the right pass, you know. And although, you know, Chelsea beat them, was it 4-1 in the end? You know, his display in the first half, you know, was just majestic, man, to be honest with you. And he's a top player, man. And again, if anyone's watched Isco for any amount of time, you'll know what a player he was, man. You know, you don't play for Real Madrid regularly like he did if you're not a good player, you know. And yeah, his display tonight, man, was class, and just reminded everyone what a good player that he is. And the fact that he's been called back into the Spain squad, as I said, you know, I actually forgot about him in the Spain squad, because I look at Spain, I thought they were moving away from the likes of Isco now. But the fact that he's been called back into the Spain squad, you know, just shows you how good of a player he still is, you know. And he showed that tonight. You know, I think the team got overrun in the end by Chelsea, which was to be expected. But he can be happy with his performance and his campaign as a whole. You know, I think Anthony was in and out of the game. You know, I think first off, he was keeping it simple. You know, and I think you're going to get people now saying, you know, Anthony can't handle the Premier League, etc. You know, which I think's harsh. But he didn't really have an impactful game. You know, he was in and out, as I said. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does next season. You know, because again, I'd bring him back to the club, give him a chance. You know, because there's been other players that are still at the club that have been given numerous chances. If United can get a good fee for him, then they'll probably take it, but because of his wage that he's on as well. But I think bringing him back could be a good option, you know. But yeah, man, Chelsea in the end overpowering, you know, winning 4-1 in the end. As I said, Jadon Sancho changed the game when he came on. You know, Cole Palmer with the 2 assists. Reece James, you know, shored up that defense, you know. And again, Malo Gusto, you know, I think his career really is on the line, because you've got Josh Achampong as well, who's come through the youth, who's rated highly, and he plays right back, you know. So could they move Gusto on, you know, and just give Achampong Gusto's minutes? Who knows? But I think, yeah, Chelsea deserved it in the end. But yeah, big up to Isco, man, because he ran that game in the first half. But ultimately, Chelsea, you know, come on strong, and in the end, won it fairly comfortable. So they've completed the set. Guys, if you're in here for the first time, make sure you smash the like button. It's only 5 likes. Let's at least get to 10 likes. And again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do at GavGoesIn. Big up yourselves. To go through some of the comments. So Reluctant Killer says, Betis were poor second half, didn't have the fire. Yeah, I think that was always going to happen, to be honest with you, Killer, because as I said, when they went ahead, I think if they would have got the second goal, you know, I think that would have helped them to control the game, you know, and sit in deep and just let Chelsea try and break them down. But I think with that first goal, and then once Chelsea got the equaliser from Enzo Fernandez, I think it was always going to be a tough ask for Betis to come back into the game. Because, as I said, I think Chelsea's subs, the firepower they've got as well, was always going to prove a problem. But I think they done well in the first half. Eze Abde, as I said, was causing problems. Isco was running the show. Bakambu was holding the ball up. And they looked fairly comfortable. But as I said, some of the changes they've made, especially Sancho coming on, and going up against Sabali and giving him something different to deal with, was the crucial turning point for me. So Sham says, bro, after Ezazuli went off, injured on 53rd minute, the game changed. Yeah, I agree. If you look at the whole left-hand side for Real Betis, Ricardo Rodriguez, obviously the left-back, and Eze Abde as well, both players went off injured. And again, that's gonna trouble a team like Real Betis. Again, they haven't got the resources that a Chelsea have. So that was always gonna give them a problem, But yeah, so Sham says, once Chelsea scored the equaliser, I just knew the trophy was Chelsea's for the taking. Yeah, listen, obviously momentum is a real thing in football, Once Enzo got that goal, piece of brilliance from Cole Palmer, I think we always knew that Chelsea were going to go and get the winner, because, as I said, they've got a lot of firepower to bring off the bench as well, and it was only a matter of time. But as I said, Sancho coming onto that pitch changed the game, because him up against Sabali, not being someone that wants to take on their opponent at every opportunity is what changed the game. Because you need a bit of creativity, you need a bit of ball manipulation, and Sancho brings that. And the way that Sancho gets into the half spaces to link as well with the front man, that's what the game was crying out for, And when Neto went off, Madueke went to the right-hand side. Even Madueke was better because he's up against a fullback that isn't as athletic as what Sabali was at right back, So that is why he had more joy against his fullback in the second half, Big up to Vortex. Big up to someone else I see earlier. T-Man Taus as well. So Sham says, Sancho could have scored prior to his goal. Jackson didn't flop with that donkey run he did. It was a simple pass for Sancho to score. Yeah, listen, I agree, but this is what you get. This is the kind of things you're going to get with Nicholas Jackson, Nicholas Jackson does a lot of unselfish things for the team, He holds the ball up, he runs the channel, and he does chip in with crucial goals as well. But one thing that is leveled at Jackson is in situations like that, you can't trust him to make the right decision, because again, it was a heavy touch. But if you actually check before he played that heavy touch, all he needed to do really was lay the ball into Sancho's path, and Sancho's one-on-one with the keeper and could have just passed it into the goal, But in the end, Sancho got his goal, and as I said, I'm just praying that Chelsea don't activate this 5 million, this 25 million clause to sign him. I'm hoping they've made their decision and they want to send him back to United, and then United can just use a player of this quality in their squad, man. Because, again, man, I'm not giving up on Sancho, and I'm hoping he comes back for sure, man. 2 class assists from Palmer. Yeah, but Cole Palmer's a top player, man. And the thing with Cole Palmer is that he can be quiet in the game, but the level of his ability, he can just turn the game on its head. And there's only a few players in world football that can actually do that, Let's see. Big up to Phoenix. Phoenix says, hi, do you have any kids? Do you remember me? Yeah, Phoenix, I remember you. I don't have any kids, but big up for coming on. Why don't you have donations on? Oh, because I'm just waiting to get monetized at the moment. So big up yourself for coming on though anyway. Big up to T-Man Taus, Chelsea fan. Now I see why Chelsea bought all these young players for moments like the second half. I feel bad for Anthony, so much hype again. Yeah, look, listen, T-Man. I'm not sure how long, obviously, you've been watching for, but you know what? The thing is, Chelsea, for me, they're going to be one of the teams to watch in the future for sure, man, because, you've got William Esteval coming in the summer. You've got Quenda coming in 2026. You've got Dario Asugo, I think, who's coming in the summer as well, or might be 2026. Andre Santos returning. you know, and obviously Chelsea are for sure going to be spending in the summer as well. So they're going to be a threat, a massive threat to Liverpool and Man City for me for the title next season if they sign what is required. But as I said, Jadon Sancho changed that game because you know him up against Sabali is what changed the course of the game for me. You know, but yeah, Chelsea got some good young players, man, and they're going to be signing some players in the summer for sure, man. So yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to this summer, man, to see who they actually sign as well. On Anthony, I don't think there's so much hype about Anthony because I think Anthony's a good player, you know, and obviously he's made a massive impact going to Real Betis. But people are going to say, you know, he's not Premier League proven, he's not ready for the Premier League. But in isolation, you know, I think there was some things he done well today. You know, he does keep the ball quite simple, which is effective. You know, but I think if people are looking at him not getting a goal or an assist, you know, then you're gonna have people that are gonna say Anthony's shit or whatever. But me personally, I think he's had a good January since he's gone to the club in January. I think he's had a good season for Real Betis. And next season, we'll see what's going to happen because, you know, if he comes back to Man United, you know, if Man United get a fee for him, then they'll probably sell him. If not, I want to see what he does in pre-season and give him a chance, see what happens, you know. But yeah, big up, man. Let's see. So Emma Lingual Mitch Shardy says Palmer is the actual GOAT. Yeah, listen, Cole Palmer's a top player, man. He's a top player. Big up Emma for coming on. Yeah, Cole Palmer, man. He's for me, he's definitely one of the best players in the league for sure, you know. And as I said, I think there is times where Palmer, you know, does drift in and out of games. You know, I think him playing as the 10, you know, and I think this is where Maresca's probably going to keep using him. But I think in that 10, you know, he's not going to have his most effective games because Cole Palmer's better starting from the right and then picking up positions in the half spaces to pick up and run with the ball and create. But when he starts in the 10, I think it's too easy for him to get crowded out. And against a more physical midfield, he's gonna find it a struggle, you know. So again, playing against a Real Betis, you know, who are not a physically imposing team, you know, he might get away with it. But against, you know, a lot of Premier League opposition where, you know, it's going to be the physicality side of it, he might get crowded out. So whether Maresca alters his position next season, I'm not too sure, you know, but that's going to be something he's got to think about because, as I say, Cole Palmer's a top player, but there's going to be games where he's going to be, you know, man-marked because they're looking at him as a danger man, and rightfully so. So what's he going to have different to try and give the opposition something to think about, you know? Big up to WBVB Glazer. So that's, what's that, Borussia Dortmund, Glazer. Go Chelsea. Yeah, listen, Chelsea deserved it in the end. You know, they, as I said, they overpowered Real Betis in the end. And as I said, Maurizio Pellegrini against Enzo Maresca. I don't think there was much that Pellegrini could have done, really. You know, when you're losing 2 starters to injury, you know, it's gonna be a tough task. You know, your first choice left back, and then your goal scorer Eze Abde and a threat as well. You know, it's gonna be a tough ask. You know, but you know, did I see Chelsea coming back into the game? I saw the second half. You know, I did think that Chelsea, you know, would get chances. I didn't see the game ending the way it did, 4-1. But I think Betis, in a sense, kind of gave up in the end because I think once the second goal went in from Nicholas Jackson, I think Real Betis just knew that it was kind of over, you know. But yeah, man, Chelsea definitely deserved that. And as I said, Chelsea, man, they're going to be a threat next season, you know, So yeah, big up to Chelsea. And as I said, Isco, man, what a player he has been. And thoroughly happy that he's back into the Spain squad, you know, because he's a top quality player. Guys, come on, only 8 likes. Let's try and hit 10 likes, you know. And again, make sure you subscribe to my channel as well. And guys, give me your questions. What did you guys think of the game? Did you think Do you think Chelsea got lucky in the end, or do you think Chelsea deserved the win? Because I mean, 4-1, was it really a 4-1 game? I don't think it was, but I think Betis kind of just gave up in the end, and Chelsea just overpowered them. And guys, what do you think of Moises Caicedo? Do you think Caicedo is amongst the top 3 best central midfielders in the game right now? Because I have him there with Vitinha and with Pedri. I think if we're looking at midfielders in world football, you know, I don't think there's anyone better than them 3. Again, if you feel that there is anyone that you think can rival those 3, then put that in the chat. Mods, time out anyone that's not contributing to the channel. You know, I ain't got time for this. So yeah, if anyone's not contributing to the channel, just time them out for me. Big up. Yeah, guys, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Moises Caicedo. Because for me, I think he's definitely underrated. Nihal says, Isco top player. Yeah, listen, he is, man. He's been a top player for years. As I said, you know, he's one of the best players of his generation for sure. You know, and as I said, because of the quality that was in that Spain squad when he was in there, we kind of forget how good Isco is, you know, and, you know, I'm guilty of it myself because I actually forgot about Isco. And the fact that he's been called back into the Spain squad, you know, I'm happy because, as I said, man, he's still got a lot to offer. You know, the legs ain't there as it used to be, but in terms of his ball control, you know, his technique, his passing, you know, a player like that, man, never loses it. And yeah, I'm happy he's back in the Spain squad. Sham says the lap has now been linked to Chelsea. Do you reckon he would go to them or Man United? Yeah, I think I see that a couple of days ago, to be fair, Sham. What I would say, Jason Wilcox is key for Man United in terms of getting that deal over the line because Wilcox had obviously the lap at Man City, you know, and there's been rumours that, you know, the lap favours Man United because of the Wilcox relationship. But then there's been rumours that he wants European football, which I don't really believe because the lap hasn't played regular European football anyway. So I just think he wants to be guaranteed of game time, I believe, you know. And I think whatever top 6 club he goes to, can he be guaranteed of game time? I'm not too sure because if we look at Chelsea, you would think that there'd be rotation between him and Nicholas Jackson if he was to go there. Man United, if Man United get the lap, would he be first choice? I'm not too sure because would Man United go in for another striker or would they just put Xerxes back up there? I think if Xerxes goes back up there, which he should do, you know, you've got Xerxes, you've got the lap if he does sign. Yeah. Liverpool haven't been linked with him. City, obviously, he was at City as a youth player. Obviously played a few first team games to them as well. Arsenal, you know, Arsenal won't are not in for him either. But yeah, he could. I think he's more looking for first team football, you know. But can I see him going to Chelsea? I can, but I think a lot of it's going to depend on Jason Wilcox if he wants to pursue this properly, you know. But we'll have to wait and see. But big up, man. So Nihal says top 5 midfielders this season are Pedri, Vitinha, Caicedo, Rice, Fabian Ruiz. So I agree with every single one of them except for Declan Rice, you know. Declan Rice is not in the caliber of those players, you know. Pedri, Vitinha, Caicedo, Fabian Ruiz are all better than Declan Rice, you know. I think what's happening with Declan Rice is that he's had a decent season, but he hasn't been better than Thomas Partey. But Thomas Partey doesn't get talked about, you know. And I think the fact that Declan Rice scored those 2 goals, those 2 free kicks in the Champions League, I think that's why he's getting talked about on the level of those players. But for me, Pedri, Vitinha, Caicedo, and Fabian Ruiz are all ahead of Declan Rice for me. And, you know, if we're putting in this season, you know, you've got Alexis McAllister, you've got Ryan Gravenberch as well. Again, Thomas Partey, you know. Um, I'm pretty sure there's other players as well. You know, you can put Frankie de Jong in there as well, top player. Camavinga's better than Declan Rice. You know, you can put Chouameni in there as well, Valverde. So yeah, for me, Declan Rice ain't in the top five midfielders this season because he's not even he hasn't even been a top midfielder in his team this season. You know, I think because he's got a few numbers this season and the free kicks, I think that's just confusing people to think that he's that caliber of midfielder, but not for me. Esteval will break football next season. What do you mean he'll break football? What do you mean, Neil? I think him coming into Chelsea next season, I think it's going to be interesting to see where he actually plays. Because I think we would assume he plays from the right. You know, I've heard that he might play in the 10. But obviously he's been bought for 60 million. So, you know, you would think he's going to come in to start. You know, he's obviously one of the best youngsters in world football right now as well, along with Lamine Yamal. So I want to see where he plays because whether they play him as a 10 and put Palmer back on the right or play him on the right remains to be seen. Big up to Sabu Galoy Jr. Talk about Spurs. What do you want to talk about? Yeah, you can't just say talk about Spurs. At least let me know what you want to talk about. You know, if you want to talk about the Europa League win, yeah, they deserved it. So, Nihal says, Gyökeres should come to United, then we can win Premier League. We just need a striker. Yeah, listen, I don't want Gyökeres. You know, I know Gyökeres has got a ridiculous goal record in Portugal. But for me, I don't want Gyökeres. You know, if I'm looking at strikers to come in, you know, because I think what people need to remember is having a striker that's going to improve the team, you know. And for me, I'm looking at strikers that make players around them better. You know, this formation, as I've mentioned before, you know, I'm not really a massive fan of three at the back. You know, I prefer the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1. But what I would say, this manager just needs to restore Joshua Zirkzee back as a striker, because if Cunha's coming in, there's been links to Mbeumo as well. If you've got Mbeumo and you've got Cunha there, and you've got a 9 like Joshua Zirkzee, the goals will come because you get the goals from out wide, and then you've got a facilitator in Joshua Zirkzee who will get goals as well. And then if you get a Delap, you know, who will be happy to in my opinion, to rotate with Zirkzee, you know, the goals will be there, put it that way. So I don't want Gyökeres because I don't think all round Gyökeres is what United need. You know, I like Mateta. Obviously, Mateta's playing for Palace as well. If you're looking for Premier League proven, Mateta is a no-brainer. You know, but for me, as long as Zirkzee needs to be restored back to the 9. Obviously, someone that can play the 10 as well. But yeah, I wouldn't mind Mateta or Delap for me, you know, from what's available. Ekatike, I wouldn't mind, but he's going to cost a lot of money, so that's a non-starter. But the likes of Osimhen and Gyökeres, I'm not too fussed with either, really. I don't really want either, if I'm honest, because I know both guys score goals, but I think Man United need to stop worrying about who's going to score the goals. You know, if you've got a striker that is contributing to the attack, you know, facilitating the attack in terms of, you know, providing for players out wide that can score goals, that's what it's about. You don't want someone coming in and hogging up all the goals because that's going to be a detriment to the team, you know. And this is what I mentioned about Bruno Fernandes. The fact that people keep harping on about Bruno's numbers and they think it's a good thing, it's actually a bad thing, because that means he's taken away from everyone else so he can get numbers. And that's not how football works. So, yeah, I don't want Gyökeres, man. But big up yourself anyway. So Nihal says, I like PSG trio. They were phenomenal. Yeah, listen, I think in terms of balance, you know, I think that's probably the best balanced midfield in world football right now, I'd say, in terms of a three. You know, you've got press resistant, you've got tenacity, you've got strength in Fabian Ruiz. Okay, you've got balance in terms of left footers, right footers, creativity, you know, passing ability. You know, all three of them as well can drop in. Neves, Fabian Ruiz and Vitinha. can all drop in and take control of the ball. So that balance there is mad. To be fair, from all the three midfields, from midfields in world football, yeah, that three is the most balanced for me. Yeah, it's mad. It's mad, man. And I expect them to win the Champions League final as well on Saturday. You know, with that three playing a crucial part. You know, it won't be easy, but I think those three, if they can get hold of the game, you know, and then the three up top can take their chances, I think they'll win the Champions League for me. So Tree Train Top says Chelsea FC won a title. It cost them £1 billion, but a win is a win. Yeah, big up, man, for coming on. So Nihal says Madrid should target Alphonso Davies. We will have a reverse Leverkusen with Trent, better version of Grimaldo type, and Alphonse, even better version of Frimpong. Yeah, as Shams just said, Nihal, Alphonso Davies signed a new contract at Bayern Munich, so he ain't going anywhere, you know, and that's why they're targeting Alvaro Fernandez, formerly of Man United, you know, and there's been rumours today that I think United might only get, I think, is it 5 or 10 million if he makes the move to Real Madrid, you know. But yeah, Davies has signed a new contract, so that's not happening. So Nihal says the amount of chances Højlund misses, I would rather play Maguire at top. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to do all this too much because again, if I know it's your first time on it, and big up yourself, but I've mentioned Rasmus Højlund a lot. For me, he's the worst striker in the league, you know, and the quicker that this club get him out, the better. And that's all I'm going to say on that, you know, because the club have major things to do, you know. Getting rid of Højlund is, for me, is definitely top of the list, along with Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes. So, yeah. Big up to Waffle Brawl Stars. What are your thoughts on Tottenham? Well, first and foremost, you know, terrible season in the league. But Postecoglou, you know, deserves all the credit, to be honest with you, because he did say that he does win a trophy in his second season. And he delivered. So you can't argue with that, you know. In terms of that final, you know, the way he set Tottenham up and how Man United didn't counteract that, again, is more on Man United. But the way that Ange set them up, you know, mid to low block, you know, played off the counter. And then when they got that goal, you know, I said it in my match reaction that, you know, Tottenham are going to win from here, because you could clearly see the way that Tottenham set up. They were just inviting crosses into the box, knowing that Van der Ven and Christian Romero will be heading it away. And then the thing is, what done it for me is when they brought on Kevin Danso, I thought they were bringing off Brennan Johnson to put Pedro Porro rather than as a right winger, as a right midfielder, and put Danso right back to deal with Garnacho, who was fresh. The fact that he went free at the back and went to wing backs, and and Ruben Amorim didn't even adapt to that change, was concerning, because it was obvious that Tottenham were just saying, look, we're going free at the back, we're going to defend, and to still have one striker, because I think Xerxes come on for Højlund at the time, but to have just one striker up there, you know, was poor, because, you know, one striker against three defenders, you know, if you're trying to chase the game, you've got to bring as many attackers on as possible to try and get the goal back. But the fact that the manager didn't even react to Postecoglou's free at the back is why he's a poor manager, poor coach for me, and is why I want him sacked. You know, but I'm not going to dwell on it, because it's looking like he's staying. Will he last at this club? I don't think he will. But the main thing is getting rid of some of these players and bringing in better players. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. You know, but big up. Sham says, since Man United have been brought up, can I bring up their 1-0 loss to Asian All-Stars earlier today in their first fixture of their post-season tour? Yeah, listen, I've heard about it. I didn't even watch the game, but from what I heard, you know, it was a shit show yet again. I heard that Sekou Kone come on and played well, you know. But again, I'm not interested in Man United until next season now, because I just want Man United to do what's needed, you know, bring in the right players, you know, and get rid of certain players. Until that happens, I'm not really invested, because this club is in a massive hole, and the way they get out that hole is by doing what's right for the club, So that is getting rid of Bruno Fernandes if that bid comes in, getting rid of Rasmus Højlund, getting rid of Garnacho, getting rid of those three is a massive start. And then you look at the likes of Luke Shaw, Mason Mount, moving them on, removing Mason Mount's number 7 off his back as well. Until those things happen, I think we have to just remain cautious with Man United at the moment, because there's been a lot of rumours. The fact that Cunha signed is good news, but let's bring in more signings. Let's get rid of players. For me, the outgoings is more important than the incomings at the moment. Because once the outgoings go out, you will kind of know what United are working with. Obviously, one game a week, so it's going to be a smaller squad, and I want to see a smaller squad full of quality. So we have to wait and see. Yeah, big up, Daniela. Big up. Guys, any more questions before we wrap? Been going for 46 minutes. So yeah, if it's your first time in there and you've enjoyed the content, again, we got 10 likes. Just make sure we smash that like button. Help the channel to grow. And guys, make sure you subscribe to my channel as well at GavGoesIn. Big up yourselves for coming on and contributing as well. So any more questions before we wrap? Yeah, big up, Sham. So Killer says, who is the greatest GOAT ever of all sports combined? Messi, Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan. That's a tough one, really. I mean, I think it's subjective, because how are we comparing them? Because you could put in, I think why Floyd Mayweather isn't in there, I don't know. So Floyd can be in there. Tiger Woods could possibly be in there as well. So yeah, exactly. Ali could be in there. So yeah, I think it's very subjective, but in terms of greats at their sports, they are the greats of their sports. Messi for me is definitely one of the best players to ever play the game. Mike Tyson, when he was younger, was just unbeatable. And obviously Michael Jordan's Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's hard to pick, to be honest, man. Let's just say they are 3 great examples of of being best at their sports. That's the way to kind of describe them, really. But there is other people you could mention as well. So yeah. But guys, listen up. Big up each and every one of you for coming on. There's 22 of you in there at the moment. Again, make sure you smash that like button and make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I'm going to be back tomorrow, guys. I'm going to be doing a pre-record. Obviously, my Next Gen 50 that I've been doing. So Next Gen 50 is the 50 best young players in world football. So far, again, if you check my my playlist, I've done William Esteval. I've done Giovanni Quenda, Chris Rigg, Rio Engamoha. That was done yesterday. That was slightly a longer stream where we got into Man United news. And then I'm doing one tomorrow and one on Friday. Again, I'm not going to spoil it. So make sure you guys are keeping an eye out for when it comes out. And let me know your comments, guys. As I said, the 50 best young players in world football. And these next 2, they might be slightly unknown to a few people, or might not be. But yeah, as I said, yeah, make sure you give that a watch. Killer says, you doing watch along for Champions League final? I'm not doing a watch along. I'll be watching it, but I'll be doing a match reaction to that on Saturday after the game. Yeah. So for me, PSG, I think will win it. I think they've been the best team in the tournament. But Inter Milan are not going to be easy. They've got a top coach in Simone Inzaghi, and they've got a very robust team as well. So it's not going to be an easy game for PSG. But as I said, I think PSG, for me, are the favourites and should win. Big up to Agnes Fortinish. Yeah, big up. So Killer says, I'm predicting Inter Milan 2-1. Yeah, listen, I can't blame you for that, man, because, as I said, did I think Inter would beat Barcelona? Although I think Barca gave the game away, I think the substitution of Chawanoglu and Mkhitaryan that came off for Fratesi and Zelinski was crucial in terms of turning the game, because both players have a lot of energy, you know, and provided that in that game against Barca. But I think against PSG, with that midfield three of Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, João Neves' energy, and then they got Kvaratskhelia one-on-one situations. He's a problem. Dembele, again, has been one of the best players of 2025. And then you've got the youthful exuberance of Desiree Doué or Bradley Barcola, you know. So I think they'll have too much, you know. But again, Inter will be tough, and it's going to be a great game, man. But I'm definitely going to watch that, you know. So Killer says, I'm picking Inter only because they beat Barca, the best team in the world in my eyes at that time. Yeah, but again, I think that was a lot of that was down to Barcelona, you know, not taking their chances and just being wide open. So yeah, it's gonna be a different game against PSG for sure, man. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves for coming on. As I said, we got 11 likes in there. If you haven't smashed that like button, make sure you do. And again, make sure you subscribe to my channel at GavGoesIn. And guys, check out my other content as well. You know, there's some good content on there. And as I say, let me know your thoughts in the comments after the stream's ended. And yeah, guys, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Take it easy.